that killed at least 100 people. Joining me now is founder and executive director of the National Security Institute, Jamil Jaffer, and CNN military analyst, retired Colonel Cedric Leighton. Let's talk about the scope of the issue. Trump is saying that Nigeria is allowing the slaughter of Christians. Do we know if this is true and the extent this might be happening?
Well, certainly Nigeria is not allowing the slaughter of Christians or Muslims for that matter. In fact, the Nigerian government is working very hard within the resource constraints that they have to actually fight Boko Haram, which is the main group that is actually attacking mainly Christians, but they're also attacking Muslims in the northern part of the country. So what you're seeing is really a state trying to provide counterinsurgency forces to the region and trying to engage in counterinsurgency operations. Success? Yeah, they're not there yet. They definitely have some problems taking care of this from a mission standpoint. But the issue is that the Nigerian government needs help, not an occupying force to come in there.
Boko Haram has been a terror for a very long time. The Nigerian government has responded, and they're actually shocked. They're mulling an invasion into their country for this very reason. What is the best course of action to deal with what's going on?
Yeah. Well, look, there are really two or three different issues going on in Nigeria. You've got Boko Haram in the north, you've got bandits in the northwest, you've got a fight between farmers and herders, people who are nomadic tribesmen who have long been in conflict. It's really there are religious dynamics to it, but a lot of it is really about economics and resources. And so what the government really needs, I think, to Colonel Leighton's point, is exactly right. They need counterterrorism support. Unfortunately, we got pushed out of Niger, a neighboring country, just a year ago. The closest forces we have are in Djibouti, quite a distance away. Our headquarters for AFRICOM is in Germany, right? So we don't have a lot of resources in the region to bring to bear on this problem. The best we can probably muster is some counterterrorism strikes, but those would be probably not against the Nigerian government, but in favor of the Nigerian government, which, to Colonel Leighton's point, is actually trying to stop these attacks on Christians and Muslims in their country.
So what would the military be doing there? I mean, given all those resources, where would the American military come in?
This would be one of the hardest missions to plan because counterterrorism missions by their nature are difficult. And so what you'd have to do is you'd have to get permission from the Nigerians to go in there and to go into the right place. You need ironclad intelligence. That's something that they're not doing in Venezuela, for example. They are just attacking targets as they see them. That is not the way to do this kind of thing. What you need to do is you need to find out who the people are, where they're located, who the most important ones are, and then eliminate those. And that's the most efficient way to do that. We've done that before in Iraq. We've done it in Afghanistan. But in the case of Nigeria, you're talking a vast country that's 37% larger than Texas in terms of square miles. And it's 230 million people plus. And it's a very complicated, really difficult area to work in.
Yeah. Concrete intelligence requires trust, and getting permission from a government that they want to deploy these resources would require total lockdown and information. Do we have that?
Well, it doesn't look like it, right? I mean, our resources in the region are constrained. We've largely sort of taken our hands off the tiller when it comes to counterterrorism efforts around the globe. For the better part of a decade, we've been downplaying and downtrending our counterterrorism missions. We've had a few successes here and there. We got Ayman al-Zawahiri, right? We got Qasem Soleimani, right? We've been our partners, the Israelis, the Middle East, have been very successful against a number of terrorist groups in their region. But in Africa and, frankly, in Southeast Asia as well, we have reduced our counterterrorism footprint in part because we had multiple administrations who said we need to focus here at home, including President Trump on the campaign trail. So it's actually good to see President Trump getting more concerned about terrorism in our hemisphere with efforts against Venezuelan drug traffickers who he casts as terrorists, and, frankly, the real terrorists, Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, who are operating actively in a range of parts of the world, including predominantly in West Africa. We see them about to take over the government in Mali. That's a huge problem, and we've taken our eye off that ball.
Of course, narco-terrorism, we're waiting for information from the administration for transparency as to what's happening on those boats, who's there. We do require due process in this country. You were agreeing?
Well, yeah, and in fact, what Jamil is saying is absolutely right, because, we could see within days the takeover of the country of Mali, which is to the northwest of Nigeria, and that would mean that Al-Qaeda sympathetic people are going to actually be in charge of a country for the first time ever, and they're going to be able to use that as a springboard for attacks in the rest of Africa and potentially for attacks in Europe and possibly even in the Americas. So this is going to be a really important development, and we have to really pay attention to this. The capital is surrounded, Bamako of Mali is surrounded by rebel forces right now. There are fuel shortages, and that's the kind of thing that is going to lead to the fall of that government, and that'll be dangerous for Nigeria as well.
Thank you both for explaining.
You bet.
You know, you don't need to be a lawyer to have seen this coming.